Good evening once again. M.M Out here, over there, everywhere, all over the place, but in this case, right here. It's the Apostle Royce Campbell, he who contested the last two general elections in St. Peter, and God's willing, shall contest a third. Now, Apostle,
yes, sir.
As I have said several times, whenever I come here, it's not rehearsed. And I get my inspiration from what I receive during the week from my subscribers and people who watch me. Now, people have been asking and they want to know, you're a potential leader.
Yes, sir.
There's no doubt.
Not potential, I am a leader.
You are a leader.
Yes, sir.
I mean the potential leader of a country. I know you're a leader of your congregation and so on, but I'm talking about politically.
Yes, sir.
And they think so. So, they want me to, this week, we're not going to focus on St. Peter or the North or anything or Barbados. They want to get your views on some things happening internationally. Okay? So, I'd like to start with this. What do you think about the situation with United States and Iran concerning the nuclear issue?
Okay. Well, here's what over the years, that's a particular situation that I've paid close attention to from the very moment that there was the issue with Saddam Hussein. Okay. The reality is that this is a touch and go situation. It has negative connotations and positive connotations attached to it. But I firmly believe that every country should chart its own course. Okay? Iran and Iraq obviously are two countries that have been heavily helped by the United States of America.
Over a period of time.
Over a period of time. But what we're seeing is that the time has gone on. Both Iran and Iraq have rebuilt themselves. They've rebuilt their political structure. And now there's the emergence of individuals within that political structure that's saying, okay, well look, we need to move on with our own destiny as a nation. I have no problem with that, okay? The reality is that America will have problems with it because you're dealing with weapons of mass destruction, okay? And once you're dealing with weapons of mass destruction, there must be testing. You cannot have a weapon of mass destruction and not test it to see where it's going to work. So I think what's happening with America is that Americans looking into the future in terms of where they're going to be developing these things, how they're going to be developing these things. And of course, once you're dealing with nuclear weapons, you're also dealing with the threat of war, international war. So my opinion of it is that besides America, I think the Iranian leaders must be very conscious and also very cautious of what they're doing. And they need to make sure that what they're doing is within the UN guidelines. And as long as they're following those guidelines, there shouldn't be an issue.
But if you remember well, Iran has signed a treaty with the United States under President Obama,
right,
which President Trump destroyed. And they were actually following the procedure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually America who has reneged on this agreement.
Well, again, let me go back to my main issue as to what I said. And I'm not looking at contractual agreements, because these things happen whenever there's a change of government or whenever there's a change of a political figure in any country. Just like Barbados, as long as there is a change in government, there are many things that are literally changed, laws that are changed, and I know this for a fact, being not just a political figure here in Barbados, but also a ministerial figure. The reality is that going forward, every country has the right to charter its own destiny, okay? And many times, and it's like with children, children grow up and sometimes they become what parents don't want them to become. But at the end of the day, it's the person's life that their own life that they're living.
Okay. Now, United States, and we're talking about weapons of mass destruction, are in possession of more weapons of mass destruction than any other territory. But yet they don't want anyone else to have any.
Well, I'm not certain that the principle is that they don't want anyone else to have weapons, because in reality, you can't stop North Korea. You know, you can't stop the Chinese. You can't stop the Russians. Okay, but the reality is
not only then, they can't stop India or Pakistan.
Okay, right.
But because I'll tell you why. The Iranians will not say I might or I, but they will do it. They will shoot this nuclear weapon.
Well, see, and again, we're going back to the threat of nuclear warfare, which means that, you know, in many cases, innocent people will be hurt. And I want to deal with the principle of this, the concept, again, of becoming, once you are going, becoming a country where you're possessing nuclear weapons, you're moving into a status of becoming a superpower. Okay? And like on any other level, once you begin to climb up the ladder, there are some people that are at the level above you that don't want you to come up here. Okay? So there are a number of things that has to happen. But my main point that I've always said with these countries is, why you investing so much money in weapons of mass destruction and your people are suffering. That's my issue that I've always had with these countries.
All over the world. Okay, we'll move on from that. We had a change of regime in Libya. Back to the United States, of course. Now they attempted to do the same thing in Syria. The difference is that President Assad is still in power. What happened in Libya is that China and Russia did not vote against attacking Libya, they abstained. In this case, they voted against attacking Syria. So we see, whatever is happening in Syria right now is mainly because of the United States. They're trying to make a regime change. In the meantime, you have Saudi Arabia attacking Yemen and killing thousands of innocent people, again back by the United States. You have the Israelis killing Palestinians, displacing them from their home, and bulldozing their entire villages, back to the United States again. It seems that every trouble spot in the entire world, everything there is instigated by the United States.
Well, it's a tough statement to make in regards to, American instigation of situations. But many of these situations are between rival factions within these countries. And as a biblical person, this goes all the way back to Bible days. And it's when you come to the reality of it, it's always one issue that they're fighting over: land. It's always been that. It's always been a case between Cain and Abel. It's been a battle between Ishmael and Isaac. It's a battle between Esau and Jacob. It's the same situation reoccurring over and over and over. And many times it's just that America finds itself caught in trying to help one element of it versus the other. But over the years, what we've seen is it's a different time, but it's the same situation.
So you wouldn't say it's the Americans, in the case of Afghanistan, trying to get hold of the poppy crop that produces the heroin. In the case of Libya, trying to control the oil, and in the case of Iraq, trying to control the oil. Also in Syria, which controls the hashish.
Well, these are always, again, what we're looking at is the area of land, because you can't have these elements that you're talking about unless there's land. Whatever you're talking about there is on some area of land. Okay, so the issue over and over again is land, what the land is capable of producing, and then you're looking at the economics behind it. Okay, and that has many times been the main issue of why people go to war, the economics. So what I want to say here is sometimes, and the reason why I look at this, sometimes without America uh, being a part of things around the world, sometimes things can actually go around. Other times the presence of America, and sometimes I really believe that America should sometimes just let countries go, let them do what they need to do, keep an eye on them, but let them go where they need to go.
You, Apostle, you're a historical guy.
Yes, sir.
Do you see any comparison with Rome and America?
In many cases, yes. There's you're talking empires, over the years, but in terms of comparing America with Rome,
Rome ruled the world?
Yeah, Rome ruled the world. I mean, most of the empires that came up in the world ruled the world. I would more compare America to the Byzantine Empire more than the Roman Empire, because the Byzantine Empire became very strong because of its ability to be very legalistic in its operation. Okay, Rome was very brutish in its development. So I would compare it to as I said, to the Byzantine Empire, which in my knowledge is one of the greatest empires that ever ruled the world.
But as I said, Rome, we read about Rome today. You know that someday we're going to be reading about the United States of America.
Well, we've always, to the point, whenever you come to the reality of what is happening, there's always this strong cross-pollination between the United States of America and England. And they operate like a brother-sister country relationship.
But that's where we're going to start the next section.
Well, again,
because we're going to talk about England.
That's interesting.
Because a very interesting event happened this week concerning England and the United States, and that's where we're going to start part 2. As of now, we're coming almost to the end of part 1 in this conversation with the Apostle Leroy Canterbury. And this week we're giving our viewers a chance to see the all-round political ability of the Apostle Leroy Canterbury to talk about certain things that have happened all over the world. So we've covered a bit about Iran, we've dealt with Syria, Libya, we've touched on these points, and when we're coming back, we're going to start with, as I said, an event that happened this week which concerns England. Apostle, this is the end of part 1.
Yes, sir.
We're going to be back for part 2. M out there, over there, everywhere, all over the place, saying that's the end of part 1. We'll be back very shortly.
All right.